Hello there, everybody. Welcome along to the EFL Debate League 2 podcast. I'm delighted to be joined by my co-host, Mr. Ben Jones of the Super White Army of Tranmere Rovers. And we're also joined by Danny Shepherd from the One Up Front Salford City blog and the Old Dead Tree fanzine. And that would have been a lot to get in the little banner, the little bar there, wouldn't it?
Would be, Gab.
Exactly. Danny, lovely to see you. After that victory over 10-man Oldham at the weekend, Ben mentioned he thinks Salford are a very good team on their day, just off camera, but maybe a little bit too inconsistent to make the automatics. But probably a playoff side. Is that how you have yourself sort of penned down?
Yeah, they kind of take you on the roller coaster. It's exactly as that is that. You can walk away from Saturday, as I did, having a few pints of Guinness after the game. I was thinking, this looks like it's coming together, and I might be able to go into like what I think is actually Cal's trying to do to try and change our very predictable approach. But the games before that, the two before, it's like we didn't even turn up. Who was it? Chesterfield, Grimsby. You know, we actually played really well for half the game, and I won't hear any words said about our first half against Bristol Rovers was bloody superb. We lost, so I'm sure Cal and the rest of the fan base are not too pleased about that. So very, very up and down, very streaky. It's almost like Neil Wood still here. Yeah.
I mean, I think you're a little bit better than you were under Neil Wood, but of course. One thing that does stand out to me about Salford, and maybe a little bit differently, I would say, to teams of the past, is I do see real athleticism and legs and direct runners in that team. I'm looking at Kelly and Mai. I'm looking at Kadeem Harris. I'm looking at Minoga.
Callum Cisse is the definition of that. He is the legs of the legs. Yeah.
So that's 5 players there, Danny, that we've already mentioned. And even Osama Ashley covers a lot of ground. So these are athletes in this Salford City team. And I think that makes a huge difference.
Oh, it does. I wrote an article for the Old Dead Tree. It must be. I feel it was actually before the end of last season, and it was called A Change of Pace. And it was about looking at the model that we had, which was Elliot Watt, Matt Smith, Callum Hendry, Stevie Mallon, very, very one-paced, very, technical, but one-paced. And then you look at it now, I don't need to re-mention the names, but yeah, we've gone particularly athletic. The one player that I'm really struggling with, and I was really pleased he was dropped against Oldham, who doesn't fit that at all. I suppose maybe every now and again you need someone else who's a bit different. Matt Butcher, lad can't move. Don't know what's going on with Matt Butcher. Really struggling.
That shocks me because historically in his career, Matt Butcher has been your archetypal box-to-box midfielder.
Oh,
why?
I'm not seeing it. And honestly, it's like, did you even mention Osama Ashley? If you did, fair play. If you didn't, he's got to go in that legs. He's another absolute.
Yeah, I did mention him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's the thing you see. This. When the Salford didn't come to me for recruitment advice, which obviously they should, that because it's very clear from what Cal said that Matt Butcher is kind of the de facto cover when Osama gets injured, as he does regularly. He's always out of the team for something. It's just one of them things. He's had the heart thing, which was really awful. He's had a lot of leg injuries as well. I don't see how you can play the same way with Matt Butcher as a solo DM and in the same position as Osama Ashley, because Osama Ashley allows us to commit 6 upfield, as I probably say every time I come on. Matt Butcher, you can't do that. The guy gets skinned alive.
Can I put you on your spot a bit here, Dan? Do you know how old Matt Butcher is?
He plays like he's in his mid-30s, but he's probably younger than that.
Yeah, I would have guessed maybe late 20s.
Right, so, 29 I don't know maybe, yeah.
29, okay. So I don't know if it's an age-related thing, or has he had 1 or 2 injuries in recent years in his career, or
keep an eye on it. That's all I can say. The other one, the one who has been stinking the whole stadium out, Brandon Cooper. Oh my Lord, what has gone on there? You probably know more about him from his Leyton Orient days and wherever he's been at higher levels. He's come in and looked horrific. Against Shrewsbury, he was just on toast to some little fast winger that just destroyed him. And thankfully, both him and Butcher were dropped for the Oldham game. We looked a million times better. So they are two problem players that we've actually only just brought in. So it reflects badly, I think, on us.
How's Udo doing for you? Because he's kind of like a player who's been a bit, inconsistent over the years in League Two, but I think he's got a few goals, a few assists for you so far. But I obviously have only seen him kind of a couple of times when
it's funny.
Against us and another one on TV. I think it was Cheltenham game, maybe.
Yeah, he's. I think he's probably the most complete striker I've seen. As long as we keep the ball on the ground, there's no point playing it up to him high because he is not Matt Smith. You can. I think. Don't know if Carl would admit this, and the Opta stats and the SofaScore stats wouldn't back it up. I think we've stopped hitting traditional crosses into the box completely because there is no point. If it's him and Stockton, there is no point hitting anything above the midriff of players. Maybe get the odd volley in, but we're hitting flat. Daisy cutters into the box, cutbacks. That's the way we're doing it. Udo, I feel a bit silly for putting a bet on the fact that I think he could be in the top 4 scorers this season because you look. Yeah, I mean, it was probably about a silly 50 quid that I'll never see again. But never mind. That I look at our game plan and it's centred around putting him through. He is the striker that Cal's been waiting for nearly 2 years. Somebody to get in behind a defence. And Callum Cisse, believe it or not, has turned into a bit of a through ball machine. Not Ben Woodburn. Ben Woodburn, absolutely not. That's not his role. He's playing much, much deeper at the minute. So Udo is... I think he's actually becoming more of a creator. He's got more assists than he has goals. I think he's got 4 assists and 3 goals so far. Yeah. And I think he'll end up getting probably 10-10. I think that's how it feels. If you got 15-10, then bloody hell, we are rocking. Because Kelly and Mai took Oldham apart on his own. He was out of this world. I mean, I don't know what you've seen of it, but he was just skipping. Yeah.
He looks amazing at the moment, Kelly and Mai.
Completely.
I mean, I'm sure you'd be glad that he didn't go to Bolton in the summer.
We don't need money now.
Yeah, I mean, I think his value in the next 2 windows is going to skyrocket. So, really excited. Do you know what I love about Kelly and Mai as well? It's that just that agility that he has because he's got that low centre of gravity. He's just such a difficult player to dispossess because he can go
slippery.
On. Yeah, he's slippery. Exactly the word I was looking for, Danny. So, lovely player to watch, isn't he?
He is. And the great thing is, I've written about it loads and probably might have been mentioned on the pod before, that when he was younger and he had a less developed upper body, then he could just be flattened by the big, the big oik centre half could come and put him on the deck and we'd get a free kick and we'd have to restart. You can't really do that now because he's actually a lot stronger than he looks, even though he's quite a small lad. And when you try to actually go and press him, that's the most dangerous thing you can do because the way he can switch feet, it's lightning. And then he's around you. He can go inside, outside. His delivery's always been iffy. But before he was out of the team and injured, then I think that was even coming along. So the fact that Bolton and others were looking at him, Burnley, I believe, were also in the mix there. So he's got that could be a Chris Casper. I know the lad very well because I know Chris Casper was involved with us for a long time, and I think now he's permanently with Burnley. So Kelly and Mai, he's actually got an extension we can trigger the end of this season, so we can make serious money from him if he desperately wants to leave. So that is the case.
Mai, what a talent! I also. Also wanted to bring up a different maybe style of runner, which is Haji Minoga, Danny, because I would consider him more of a power runner, and I'm really enjoying him at the moment, the way that he gallops up and down the right hand side.
He is. He's when you see him in the flesh, you realise that you're not getting past them shoulders. That them shoulders are going to keep. His
shoulders are boulders.
Yeah, he is, and he's also one of the loveliest professional footballers I have ever met. Yeah. He actually thanked me personally for articles I've written that have been nice about him, just at a pre-season game. Angel. Nice. Never spoke to him, beckoned me over. Anyway, but as a player, very good, unusually for a defensive player, receiving the ball with his back to goal on the halfway line because he can turn either way. When I said that to him, I said that's one of your greatest qualities. He lit up the guy. He loved the fact that I was looking at it in such detail. Brilliant penetrative running forward. I mean, he has destroyed teams. In our lowest points last season, we went on quite a bad run. He was the only, forget our strikers, he was the only player causing opposite defences problems. He really, really was. And he's playing at wing back. There's nobody to challenge him in that. There's no one who could come close to that. But you can shift him as a right centre back in the back three.
I was going to come on to that actually, Danny, like his versatility, because when he came through at Portsmouth, I'm sure he was in the conversation to play right back, right centre half, right wing back. So that I think you could put him in a multitude of roles, and he could do a bit like Udoka Godwin-Malief, who played for Forest Green Rovers for a few years and is now at Burton. I see him as a similar profile of player with similar strengths.
One more though I need to add in, just about Haji Minoga. He is the wide target man. He is our aerial threat. From long goal kicks, we do not play the ball through the centre very often. There's no point. I've said already, Udo, no, Stockton's there getting his hairband on. He's not interested, right? So it's always going out to the right. There's no point playing it to Kadeem Harris on the left either. He's not going to do it. And if Kelly and Mai's playing wide, the same. Haji Minoga is our flick-on merchant. He's almost like Matt Smith playing a bit deeper. So there's very, very few things that he cannot do. Oldham fans weren't very happy with one of his challenges of putting someone into the advertising hoardings over the weekend. That looked a little bit nasty. Doesn't seem like a nasty player to me, but I think we were up for that game, and Carl had him like, we have to win this. We have to get out of this horrible streak. And as I said, one of the loveliest players I've ever interacted with. Lovely guy is Hadj.
Ben, just on Salford and Carl Robinson, should we be giving Carl Robinson a bit of credit for developing some of these assets? Because it's the first time under the class of 92's regime, if you like, that I feel like we've spoken about Salford City and seen here, there. That's a player to get excited about in terms of upward trajectory. That's something that I'm really excited about. It's something we associated with Carl Robinson's teams, MK Dons. I think he's gone away from it a little bit, if I'm honest, at other clubs, maybe Oxford United. I think it's nice to see, nice to be talking about a Salford City team in those terms, right?
Yeah, I think he's gone for a slightly different style to what I would normally associate with him as well. And I think the young players and that energy kind of, he's probably looked at it and gone, that's what gets you promoted out of League Two at the moment. And then, kind of built his side based on that system and like given that youthful energy in there as well. It's quite similar to an extent of what kind of like Grimsby have done. And having them runners, I mean, from the times I've seen them, they like to sort of keep possession for a little bit to draw the opposition team in and then look for them through balls or the balls down the channels, kind of bypassing the midfield to an extent. And I think having all that kind of running power, which you get from that youthful energy, is really important to that. And I know when they played us, we had a terrible game besides anything, but we were kind of stuck in between, do we go and press and try and stop them building up, or do we sit off and let them have the ball? At which point, they can't play all these kind of through balls, and we were kind of doing neither really. We weren't pressing, we weren't sitting off. We were kind of like stuck in two minds what we wanted to do. I think I saw them against Cheltenham as well. That game was, I think, 0-0 for a very long time. Cheltenham did sit off really deep in that game, and Salford, struggled with that to an extent. They had a lot of possession, but they couldn't play those through balls, and I think because of that, they were kind of struggling to get the really good goal chances. They were kind of all just sort of pot shots from the edge of the box, with a lot of bodies in between them and the goal. So I guess that's kind of where the inconsistency might be coming from with Salford, is that if an opposition team is happy to just sit low, sit deep, then kind of what's the plan B if they can't play those through balls or the balls down the channels?
Bang on, Ben. Honestly,
Danny, can I? Great point there from Ben, obviously, but I did want to ask you, Danny, about midfield, because, and sort of feeding on from what Ben was saying there, which is if we've got Ben Woodburn dropping a bit deeper than he's used to, he's obviously been, profiled as, a withdrawn forward in his career. Now we're talking about him taking on more of the creative playmaking, I suppose, because you've got Callum Cisse in that advanced pressing role and actually playing those through balls. You've got Osama Ashley, who's the screener, and you've got Ben Woodburn sort of dropping in and linking play. How has Ben Woodburn adapted to maybe a slightly different set of responsibilities than he might have had previously in his career?
I think he's just about keeping his head above water. That's it. He's not bad enough to necessarily drop, but he is not, and he hasn't throughout his career with us. He has never impressed for anything longer than a few minutes of a game. He hasn't done it. Look at his stats; they're not great. A lot of people were talking him up as like a League Two potential signing of the season when he came in that pre-season, however long ago it was. He hasn't done it. And it just feels like if he drops into the National League, I wouldn't expect him to dominate in that. I don't know how low he has to go to be able to actually start kinging games. And I don't know what that is. The one thing I'll give him credit for, though, is that he knows in this team he has to run until he's burnt out. And that's what he does. He's not a physical player. Right. He's not an intense player, but he understands that is the minimum requirement of what needs to happen.
So, I'm glad to hear that. That's a good basis.
He steps up that. But I don't think we bought him for that.
Of course.
Up until we started getting the checkbook out, when I think AIG came in as one of our strategic partners, and we bought like Dan Udo for 325 grand, which is just, I'm still reeling from. How do we do that? That we've never been buying players, never mind for cash. So, before all these glut of even Cooper, Butcher, etc., Grant, before that, I would say that from what I'm aware of, I think Woodburn was our top earner, just under $5,000 a week. So we expected him to come in and do stuff, change games. Didn't happen, hasn't happened. I'd love to tell you one thing though, just in case. I think there's a big change happening, and it's up front, right? I saw in that game that we lost miserably against Chesterfield, 2-0 from what I remember. I was there. It was just depressing, no good. And what might have seemed like a bit of a nondescript substitution, I think this is what we're going to do, and this is what's going to catch teams out, because I think it caught Oldham out. We brought Kelly Amai on, and we put him eventually, I think he played on the right, kept Kadeem Harris on the left, and we had basically, I'd call it a front three, a very shallow V of a front three with Dan Udo
shallow
in the
V.
Actually, is it a V? It's the opposite of a V. It's a shallow N, right?
Okay. All right.
Yeah. My mistake. Thanks for pointing out though, because obviously I've got my alphabet wrong. So if you're with me on that, that's a positive, because we've basically been playing Udo and a Siri or a Bird or Stockton. It's been a 2 with supporting runners, and now it's definitely, although it's not, it's kind of a wider 3, but not quite to the touchline. And you've got 2 other elements of this who are feeding into it. One is Haj Minoga, mainly from the kickoff, because he's up in line with our forwards for the wide target man Christian Benteke role. And the other one, who's always, and I wish he could just sort his feet out when he has to shoot, because Callum Cisse is running beyond them. He's almost like Matty Lund when he was about 20, as like getting through the middle of a team, late runner, although Matty Lund was very good with his head as well. So I think we've got almost like an interchangeable 5 who can go into the front 3, and that I saw Oldham's defenders going, who's pops up, that where's he gone? It's good. It's good. And what I thought meant nothing against Chesterfield, because the game didn't change. We still lost 2-0. We carried it on, even in a loss. We carried that on because Carl saw something in it, and I think we're going to implement it. And this is no disrespect to the average League Two manager, but I think we're going to get at least 2 or 3 weeks of a free swing out of that, because I think, despite all the video analysts and all that, and managers knowing what they're looking at, I think that will go under the radar for a period of time, and we'll get some result based on surprise only. That's
okay,
my
well,
thoughts.
let's hope League Two managers aren't listening to this.
Yeah. Well, actually, I'm sure they are now, but there you go. Yeah, they're all your pals. So
I've never listened to Danny. He's not very insightful, so
I know.
I wouldn't pay any attention to
I'm
it.
only kidding. Yeah, it's not true.
Absolutely.
None of it's true.
Danny, I know you've got plans this evening, so we really do appreciate your time, and all the best for the rest of the season, mate.
Cheers. Have a good one. All the best now.
Nice one. Ben, we are talking mainly about the promotion race in League Two, but I can't let you go without a quick word on Tranmere Rovers, especially off the back of that 4-1 victory at Bristol Rovers. Some attacking combinations starting to come to the fore.
Yeah, we seem to sort of, under Andy Crosby, has had 26 games in charge now, and that's the fourth time we've put 4 past an opposition, and each time we've done it, we've looked capable of scoring 7 or 8, and we just seem to, on our day, have this capacity to completely blow sides away, and it doesn't really matter too much who the opposition team is. We did it to Chesterfield last season when they were kind of banging in form, and then Newport final day did it to Shrewsbury, albeit Shrewsbury were abysmal. And then kind of Bristol Rovers just didn't really know what hit them. I mean, I was really shocked myself as well, because I've been kind of expecting Bristol Rovers to sort of look upwards now. They obviously had that bad result against MK Dons before playing us, but they also shipped 4. But they've
been very streaky, haven't they? They've been very streaky, haven't they, Bristol Rovers? They've had 3 straight defeats, then a run, then a sequence of something like 4 wins and 2 draws, and then 3 straight defeats again. So,
I think I was saying pre-season about them that kind of expected them to have a slow start and then kind of pick up through the season, whereas they've kind of just been patchy right through, and kind of they win a few, lose a few sort of things so far. So I don't really know what's going on with them. But as for ourselves, we've obviously been blighted by injuries, player unavailability. There was the Sam Fenley long-term suspension, which didn't give us too many options in the middle of the pitch until he came back. He is back now. He started with Billy Blacker on Saturday, and they were both pretty decent. They weren't our best 2 players, but they both did a decent enough job. We changed formation slightly. I think so far we've been generally playing with 2 10s, whereas we kind of had more 2 orthodox strikers with Davison and Ironside. And I think in terms of kind of attacking output, that's worked well for us.
I think I prefer 2 in behind. I would go for Ironside, although you might prefer Davison. I'm not sure. I mean, I think I'd have a bit more trust in Ironside, but I like Charlie Whittaker, and I'd possibly go for, I mean, maybe Amari Patrick as a sort of wider 10. But I mean, Connor Jennings, I suppose, off the back of that performance of the Mem, you've got to hand it to him, haven't you?
Yeah, I think the real issue we've got with kind of whatever setup we go, I think Charlie Whittaker is probably the best we've got in terms of playing that role in between midfield and attack, where he links everything up and he's really tidy in those spaces. Connor Jennings, gets around in that space and does a lot of sort of defensive work from the front, and he chips up with important goals like he did the weekend, but he's not quite the same in terms of the build-up play.
Sure, yeah.
And then Taylor Harris is off the boil, and with Amari Patrick, the thing with him, I don't really know where we play him, because he's got goals in him. I think he's the 4th highest scorer in the league so far. 6 goals, 4 assists, something like that. But it's kind of, to be playing wing back, because then you can have an extra forward on the pitch, or do we play him 10? But if you play him 10, it's kind of handicapping yourself in the build-up play, because he's not so hot in terms of the build-up play. And he's not one who presses very well from the middle of the pitch. He does a decent job when he's out wide, but I think from those kind of central areas he struggles with the press. And when he's played there, I think he did against Salford potentially for a period, he struggled.
And also, when you play one of those attacking roles, you're almost too close to goal. He likes to be further away.
Yeah.
It's easier for him
to pick the ball up where he's got at least kind of 5 yards in front of him to get going before. He's happy to engage defenders 1v1 or even 1v2, but He needs that kind of
because that's the
5-10
thing.
space.
You can mark a forward, whereas you can't always mark a left wing back. So that's part of the confusion that Patrick can thrive on when he gets that, those 5-10 yards.
It might be why having the two up top, or even going to a 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3 might be the way to go, because you can have a slightly different combination. If you go to a 4-2-3-1, you can have him off the left, you can have Whittaker behind the striker, and then I don't know who goes on the right, maybe Jaden Joseph.
I think that would be his best position. I think if you take formation out of the equation, because I do like the idea of sticking to the 3-4-2-1 or 3-4-1-2 in terms from a continuity perspective. But if you're asking me where would Omari Patrick play at his best, it's probably left wing in a 4-2-3-1 with license to drive.
Yeah, that's the real headache for us. But I guess if Ethan Bristow comes back and plays any real part in the season, because we don't really know what's going on with him too much, he comes in and gives us a lot of balance at left wing back, or alternatively you can go to a back four with Patrick Brough at left back.
Sure.
Either way, I know we've just done okay at the weekend, but I think we still got that headache to work out around what's best for us kind of long term.
Some dilemmas for Tranmere and Andy Crosby then. Ben, have you got another 5 minutes or so? I know you're playing indoor cricket.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we just wanted to hear from Simon Ward from Walsall Fan TV. He can't be with us at the moment. This is what he had to say about the Saddlers' promotion prospects.
Walsall start to the season to be top of the league after 13 games is very pleasing. Very pleasing. Particularly as had quite a few players leave, lots of new players coming in. So great credit to Matt Sadler for getting us playing so well as a unit, as a team, and playing the system. On Saturday, it was a tough one. Barrow sort of did a Walsall on us, really. Sort of just took the chances when they had them. Will Stanaway, 11 saves for Barrow. It was remarkable goalkeeping, really, that sort of got on the points. The ref decided not to give us a clear penalty, or at least one of them. So that was disappointing. That would have made the game somewhat different. And still can't believe Walsall didn't go on to win that game, particularly when they went down to 10 men. But it's one of those. It's one of those. Chances this season? Well, we're certainly in the right place to have a sustained challenge. I think Matt Sadler's learned not to overplay players. So that's a big thing that sort of tripped us up last season. January is obviously going to be the big one. We're light on cover for strikers. So we need 1 or 2 strikers in January. And we need to hold on to the players we've got. People are already sniffing around for Connor Barrett. And I'm sure other players will get mentioned as well. So Travella need to be smart and hold on to them and get us up into League One. That's what I'm hoping. But plenty more challenges on the way.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting with Walsall, Ben, because I think last season and what happened in the second half of it is still fresh in the minds of a lot of Saddlers fans. But I do think that there's some extra ingredients that Walsall have, partly in terms of learned lessons from things like rotation that Simon mentioned there. I think experience in having somebody like Aidan Flint makes a difference. And so if they can have a good January finally this time, because they always seem to lose their best striker and struggle in the second half of the season, do you think Walsall can last the course, certainly in terms of top 7 or top 3?
I think top 7's realistic for them. They look pretty solid again. They possibly are the fittest side in the league. Certainly got the most kind of energy on a individual game basis. It's like you say there, can they get the business in January right? Can they get the rotation right? That was something I flagged up last season that I thought would lead to them falling away, and it's probably a similar kind of concern I've got at the minute for them this year, because they're so heavily based on their energy levels, the way they play. If they can't sustain that, they'll undoubtedly have a drop-off again. So, how big would that drop-off be, and how sort of well can they manage the rotation to minimise the effects of it? But in terms of, their consistency levels are kind of pretty much unparalleled. They're very good at churning out those sort of 7.5 performances every week, and you're getting consistent points there. So, yeah, I think with where they are this year, they may be a little bit more balanced than they were last year. I would certainly quite happily say they'll be top 7 this year, but I think top 3, it's just going to come down to that whole rotation and transfer business thing in January.
Yeah. I think like if they keep Connor Barrett and then get Nathan Lowe back on loan, because there's I think murmurs that Stoke aren't thrilled with his game time at Stockport, so you never know whether that could happen. Then I think they've got a great chance of top 3. Whereas if they lose Connor Barrett and then Daniel Kahn, who gets recalled by Charlton, as always seems to happen for them, and if things happen again, then you would actually worry about them dropping off. So January's going to dictate a lot for Walsall.
Yeah, I think history kind of tells us that I saw you put a tweet out about the points per game. I think it was the top 4 sides, could they sustain it? And I think history kind of tells us that that doesn't tend to happen in League Two. You don't tend to have, a bunch of sides all hovering around that 90-point mark. Typically, even to get promoted to that League Two, it's often only 80 points for that top 3.
Yeah. Well, the 15-16 was a bit of an outlier because you had Accrington Stanley, Bristol Rovers, Northampton, and someone else who all had 85 plus points. But that's not common. So it could be a high.
You've also got that kind of jeopardy factor that comes in every spring where the sides at the bottom all start to play with a little bit more purpose and start pinching a few more points off the top sides than they maybe do at the start of the year. That kind of the nerves and all those kind of things come into it. But yeah, I think that fitness thing's huge for them. I would be surprised if they sustained it enough to get top spot, but maybe if they can, like you say, get the lessons learned from last year, they could sneak into that 3rd spot. I think in terms of that auto race, that MK Dons have a little bit too much depth with the possibility of adding to that in January. And then at the minute, I think that Swindon and Grimsby are a little bit more fluid in terms of the football they play, and I think that's a little bit more sustainable in terms of a top 3 push.
Absolutely.
And then kind of beyond that as well, you've also got Chesterfield, who were a lot of people's kind of pre-season favourites off. They had that strong finish last year, and then very good manager. Can they kick on again?
Well, what worries me about Chesterfield is maybe not much midfield depth, because I think Tom Naylor's quite important to them. But when he doesn't play, they don't have the other options. So I think January, again, keep repeating myself, I think January is going to dictate a lot in terms of the League Two promotion race. Because again, if Chesterfield bring in the midfield depth that they need and maybe central defence as well, I think they could easily make a run into the top 3. But then I think they're also their squad's a bit thin in certain.
In those little important areas.
Just a quick word on Gillingham before we move on, because we have got some guests waiting. But just wanted to get your thoughts on them. It's dropped off a little bit since Gareth Ainsworth. Obviously, we wish Gareth well on with his health, and that obviously comes first.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of course. Under Richard Dobson, I don't think they've won yet under him. I think they're winless in 4 or 5 games.
Yeah, 1 point from the last 4, I think it is.
1 point, thank you. But I think they'd kind of got on the right side of fine margins previously as well.
Yeah.
Are you looking at Gillingham as a top 7 proposition rather than top 3?
They're very difficult to place. Every time I've seen them, they don't look like they should be in that top 7 picture in terms of, they're not as fluid as any of the other top sides. They don't have like a set kind of attacking style of play. It's very much, we're going to be very solid defensively, and then kind of we'll do something and score a goal kind of thing. It's not, it doesn't appear that there's like a plan in terms of how they're going to attack. They've scored a lot of weird goals where there's like deflections or there's a load of bodies and the ball sneaks into the goal kind of thing. So I think for them, getting that kind of last playoff spot or maybe 6th would be good with that in mind.
Yeah.
Because a good defence does help you quite a lot. We saw with kind of Wimbledon last year, who obviously got promoted, that they maybe were quite similar in that regard. That they didn't necessarily look the most fluid going forward, but they had solid foundations and they picked up goals here and there. They won lots of 1-0 wins or 2-0 wins, and that kind of saw them over the line. So
yeah, on the plus side for them, I think Armani Little's back, so I think that could be quite important for them.
Yeah, I think when he signed for them, he was one of my kind of sort of favourite players in that position in the league, and then he didn't really set the world alight last year.
Yeah.
The team as a whole struggled, but I think this year he's under Ainsworth looked a little bit better and probably closer to what he was at Wimbledon, so he could be a really important player for them.
Absolutely. Ben, have fun playing the indoor cricket tonight, and I'm sure I'll see you soon.
Yeah, cheers. Good luck.
Top man. Cheers, Ben. We've got a few guests this evening. We've got Adam Howard from the View from the Finders podcast of Grimsby Town. We've got Dan from the MK Army, but I want to speak to Ben Nichols from Fools Rush In of Swindon Town. Ben, thanks so much for joining us this evening. Really appreciate you taking a brief detour away from your work. So I hope I don't get you into too much trouble.
No, that's right.
I suppose it won't take much time to sum up the 4-0 defeat at Accrington Stanley. That was the biggest setback of the season, of course.
Well, yeah, I think no one else was really expecting that. I think it was a numerous amount of things. Accrington actually were really good that day. Swindon were quite complacent. There was the sending off at 1-0. I think after the sending off, actually, that kicked us into gear and we started looking a little bit better. We hit the post a couple of times, but then gave a kamikaze second goal away. And then the injury to Butterworth after we'd already made all our subs, which meant we were down to 9 men and the wheels fell off a little bit. But Accrington were great. They were really, really good. They prepared. They'd done their homework. They were solid at the back. They took the chances and they were lethal in front of goal. And I think it was a complete performance by them. End of the day, you've got to give them some credit, haven't you? So they played really well. And I think Swindon just had a really bad day all over the place. And Accrington didn't. So kudos to them, really. And you just got to dust yourself down and get on with it.
I'm just wondering, Ben, obviously the more sympathetic and generous kind of view of Saturday's game is, you had 2 red cards and that's obviously going to make things a lot harder and you did the best you could with that numerical disadvantage. But we've talked about it as a positive thing, the number of attacking threats, the fact that your wing-backs get so high up the pitch, that Kilkenny can dictate play, that Tom Nichols has been converted, and the 3 up front that we've touched on. But I'm wondering, actually, you've conceded 19 goals. So does there need to be a slight redressing of the balance in order to improve the defensive record? Or are you happy to be a Kevin Keegan's Newcastle?
We did kind of do that with the signing of Tapazzoli a little bit because we needed that big, talkative, combative centre-back to get in the side. But at 1-0, he went off injured. But previous to Accrington, we kept 2 clean sheets. And that made his debut, and that was his second game. He looked quite solid and compact then. And he is very vocal. Obviously, he's very experienced and quite dominating. And he's a bit different from what we have because we have quite a few ball-playing centre-backs. And some of the centre-backs we do have, like Mbate, is it Liddell, Knight Lavelle, and Wilson Brown. They're all young. They're straight out fresh academies. I know Knight Lavelle's played a bit of Crewe last season.
He did well at Crewe,
Yeah, and Will Wright is quite an aggressive centre back. So that's something where we are a little bit short of. So and he was missing. He was missing again last night. You can tell that as well in a sort of up and downy game against Notts County. So I think he's quite important to us, and I think Swindon are quite liable to conceding the old goal. I wouldn't say we're like Newcastle from the early 90s, where it's we'll score 5, score 4, we'll score 5 type thing. But there is probably a little bit of an immaturity at the back, and there is naivety, and it's we work so hard to score our goals, but there's times like yesterday I watched, and other teams don't need to work so hard to score against us, which is a bit of a shame. Which could work into our Achilles heel this season. I don't know. We'll see how it pans out. But yeah, we can see too many at the end of the day.
Well, hopefully that's something you can correct. Obviously, it was a 2-2 draw with Notts County in midweek, with Aaron Drinan scoring another brace. I mean, you must be thrilled with how he's doing so far. Best season. He did have a good first half of the 21-22 season, I think it was.
Yeah, well,
this could be his best season.
Holloway arrived, he was sort of a squad player, sort of 5-6 goal season striker. You know, there wasn't really that much thought of him, and you know, we thought he'd like disappear at the end of the season and probably end up non-league. He was just sort of working his way down. But I think Holloway's sort of breathed new life into him. He had his form picked up, and then he got injured. But he showed signs of what he was showing this season, and he's just so it's got to be a confidence thing that Holloway's installed, and I believe his movement is fantastic. He can play either straight forward or either striker, and if you see the goals last night, it's just the ability to time into the box and be at the right. You know, he's that Johnny on the spot striker as well now. You know, he can score goals from all sort of areas, but you know, yesterday's goals was just about timing and being in the right place to meet in the end of the crosses. And long may it be the case. He's scoring a bag of goals and he's playing with when you watch him, he's all over the place. You can tell the confidence just oozing out of him right now. You know, he's a new man, which is brilliant to see and fantastic for him. And long may it continue.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Aaron Drinan just because he's such a strong runner and a very difficult player to stop with a great work ethic and clearly in a rich vein of form right now. Do you have faith in Swindon Town as a club to last the course, or is there still part of you thinking, when are we going to slip up?
Well, the PTSD side of me does expect that to happen at some point, but but if you're just looking from an outsider's point of view and you look at our depth and what we have and the options available to us, there's no reason why we can't sustain it. As you were just mentioning to Ben earlier, you think, when January comes. But when January comes for us, we're thinking, as long as we don't lose anyone, not bothered really, because we've got, we suffered. Ollie Clark was suspended yesterday, obviously injured to Butterworth. We've got quite a number of few. Murphy's out for a little while. Tapazzoli's out, and we still had numbers on the bench. And covering all positions. We've got a lot of options at centre back. Players like Ryan Delaney stuff have still been barely used this season. We've got a number of centre midfielders who can play at different positions as well. We've got Oldacre and we've got Kilkenny. They can be operators and most of the balls. We've still got ball winners
roles as well, can't they?
Yeah, they can do similar roles. Yeah. We've got Ball coming back from injury as well. He's back in training as well. He'll be another useful addition. He can play at the back or centre midfield. And we've got players strikers coming out of our ears. There's players like Billy Bowden and Abatchman who's just not really getting much of a game at the minute. Not because they're not that good. It's just because the players we have got playing well, and then we've got Ollie Palmer. So in that sense, it should never guarantee it. But 4-0 against Accrington, no guarantees in this league. Anything can happen. League Two's crazy, but on paper, we can stand up to your likes of MK Dons for squad sizes and stuff, and it would, I think it will need to go badly, or something needs to go badly for us to not challenge at least the top 7. I think this season, I'm confident that we will be in the conversation. I can't tell you that we'll be in top 7. I can't tell you that we'll be in top 3. That's too long to go, but I think we can be optimistic of a good season.
Absolutely. Ben, thanks so much for talking to us, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
No worries. Take care. Thanks for having me. Cheers.
Top man. We will be joined by Adam Howard from the View from the Findus podcast on Grimsby Town shortly, but I'm delighted to be joined by Dan from the MK Army of MK Dons. Dan, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
MK Dons took a bit of time to get into their stride, but after back-to-back 4-goal hauls and victories, do you feel like you're starting to hit top gear?
I think I wouldn't even say top gear, to be honest. I think we've still got a way to go until we sort of reach the peak that I feel that we can hit. It's I wasn't at the Bristol Rovers game, but from what I hear, we could have done more. We could have done more there, and then even against Crewe, what's it, 3-1 win.
3-1,
We
sorry,
never
yeah.
really got out of second or third gear or something like that. There's still a way that we can go, and especially with some of the injuries that we've still got ready to come back. I think you put your comment out yesterday as to if we can sort of like continue the rate of point scoring that we're currently on, and yeah, I think we definitely can, and potentially it's probably arrogant, I don't know, but I think there could be a lot more to come from us.
It's interesting because you've got Luke Offord and John Mellish as your fullbacks, at least according to what I'm seeing on the BBC. They've listed it as a 4-3-3 with those two as the fullbacks. And it's quite interesting because I don't really think of those players as natural fullbacks. So is Paul Warne playing quite a narrow system with all the pace and strength coming from Aaron Nemane and Nathaniel Mendes-Lang, and of course Russian Hepburn Murphy when he comes off the bench?
I think the first thing I'd say there is that I think we have brought Mellish in as a fullback. He was brought in because Tomlinson got injured, so we needed the cover at left back.
Right.
And he didn't. He's really gone away from, as much as possible, having a back five, like for example, so like your two wing backs and your three centre backs and that. But
it's funny actually because I'm sure when I think it was Liam Connolly did one of his recruitment documents from 2019, he did actually spot John Mellish as a player from Dons to sign. So it's funny that you've actually got him in the team like 6 years later. So
yeah. It was even sort of funnier when I think it was on his debut, got a red card for a bad challenge or this, that, and the other, which didn't help our injury crisis. But yeah, but going back to the original question, the defence might seem a bit narrow because Offord you would expect as a centre back, and then if you don't see Mellish as sort of like a fullback, then yeah, fair enough. But I think,
but I would have them,
mainly
Dan, as similar profiles in that they're aggressive centre halves who like to play in a three so that they can push into midfield. They both like to do that role where they're a sort of a centre half with a small C, in that they like to also break into midfield because they're both very aggressive. So it's interesting that they're both playing fullback. But
yeah, I think Offord's working at the moment because we've got Nemain in front of him.
sure.
Our main issues with Nemain last year was the fact that he wasn't really much of a defender. He was really good going forward, and most of our goals from the early part of last year were sort of coming from Nemain, like playing the ball behind into him to whip in, and we'll score from that. But then this year, because he's got that defence behind him and he's playing a bit more as a winger, it's helped us in the sense that we can still, I think, when we're defensively, like Offord could potentially tuck in and the main can be back there. So it's very, very sort of like versatile and flexible at the moment. But then you've got to think we've still got Gethin Jones out injured, and I completely forgot that we'd signed him. Like he's not been around at all. Kane Wilson, we've still got Kane Wilson to come in,
yeah,
and that's the position that he'd probably expect to fill. So yeah, it's fun. It's fun for the first time in a few years, actually, because it's not just we were quite good under Mike Williamson, but there was always that performance that you knew was coming that ended up just culminating in an absolute travesty at Crawley. But what Paul Warne's come in, and it's been really, really noticeable, is the mentality of the team is just so much better.
Yeah.
We're a lot stronger. We can go 1-0 down, and you're still there thinking, yeah, but we're still gonna we're gonna win this game, sort of thing. Whereas before, we'd go 1-0 down, the heads would drop, and you're there thinking, okay, how many is it going to be? So I think that's the best thing that Paul Warne's come in and done, is the mentality around the whole club is just it feels so positive at the moment.
Talk to me about the midfield trio of Will Collar, Liam Kelly and Alex Gilby, because I would think of it as Collar and Gilby being your sort of high energy eights who like to get up and down and are very dynamic and aggressive. And Liam Kelly is more like a playmaker, I imagine, because he's obviously more diminutive, but he can be a hard player to pin down.
Yeah, I can see that as being the case, especially with Collar and Gilby. Like that, they're the two that got our goals at the weekend as well. So like they're popping up in good goal scoring positions. Gilby, you'd expect that from,
Yeah.
and Collar, it took a little bit of time for him to sort of show the sort of player that we were all excited to sign in the summer. Like the first few games he was there, he was only playing sort of like a bit part from the bench. He wasn't really making much of an impact. But since I think it was his goal at Shrewsbury, or maybe even the Chesterfield away game. Since then, he's been fantastic, really. And then Liam Kelly it's night and day compared to last season. Last season, he really struggled.
Isn't that funny? Because if you'd have asked me before Scott Lindsay was appointed and you'd told me you're going to have Scott Lindsay as manager and you're going to have Paul Warne as manager, I would have guessed Liam Kelly would be amazing under Scott Lindsay because you'd have loads of the ball and he'd get a feel for it and he would dictate play and he would slot people through and he would be this little magician like he was at Crawley. And under Paul Warne, he'd get neck-ache because the ball's always going over his head and he's struggling to get momentum in games. That would have been what I would have guessed. And yet it's been the complete opposite, which I find fascinating.
It has, but I think that's more how we were under Scott Lindsay. Like it was good. It was good for a couple of weeks, a few weeks, and then it just nosedived. Like everybody's form, basically. I think Alex Gilby had a recurring injury that he wasn't being allowed to recover from because he was so important to us beforehand in our good run.
Right.
And yeah, honestly, it might even be just since Lindsay's gone. So even under Ben Gladwin, Liam Kelly, he's just felt like a different player. And one of the people that I sit with, he's gone on record as saying last year I was Liam Kelly's biggest hater, basically. This year I'm his biggest fan. It's been that much of a switch. He's showing why we signed him, and so are a lot of players really. Like Callum Patterson has come in and he's been an absolute phenomenon.
What a
Nathaniel
Trojan.
Mendez-Lang, he's finally sort of he took a couple of weeks to get going again, and then obviously he went away with Guatemala.
But you know what the trend is of a Paul Warne front three? You have a middle centre forward who's really aggressive and is an absolute battler and grapple with centre halves, and you have two really quick wide forwards, which you've got in either of Aaron Nemane, Nathaniel Mendez-Lang, or the lad who used to be Aston Villa as a youngster, Rushnetbo Murphy. And because at Rotherham, I think it was very similar. He had Michael Smith down the middle, and then I think Chio Egbenny maybe, and possibly Hakeem Adelican. So there's a similar kind of process where you've got one target man and two lightning quick players on either side. And because opposing defences are scared of facing those individuals, it can free up players like Kelly, I guess, and Gilby to do their stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And then, like again, we've got to think Aaron Collins. He's still come back. Yeah, this is it. Like there's like a few players. We did have a bit of an injury crisis, and I thought this was going to be a Paul Warne staple sort of thing because we were told by Derby fans, and I think there was a few Rotherham fans that mentioned as well to say, yeah, he's a good manager, but your injury list is going to be full week in, week out. And it was starting to be the case. We weren't getting injuries in games. We were getting injuries
that was their
in
warning,
training.
was it?
Yes. Yeah. But now, as I say, like people are starting to come back, and we've got Jack Sanders coming back, who he's been probably our best player of 2025, I would say. But again, that's since Scott Lindsay's left. And yeah, there are others. It's as I said earlier, and I just keep coming back to it. It's just really fun at the moment. Like the NTT20 guys said that this is our best return in the early part of the season since the 2 seasons that we got promoted. And while that might be expected from the outside looking in, we've gone through the last 10 years of relegations, one promotion, one almost year in League One, and then just it's not been fun up until this point, really. It's because thinking about it as well, the 18-19 season, yes, we got promoted. It wasn't necessarily the most entertaining. It was
Sure.
Paul Tisdale being clinical and being like doing the job sort of thing.
I mean, there was a spell where you had Agard, Anike, and Healy who combined quite nicely, but to what second half of that season wasn't much cop, was it?
Yeah, but even then, it was maybe a few games where we won. I think we beat Cambridge quite comfortably. We beat Crawley quite comfortably, but it was more just do your job, just get the 3
Yeah.
points. And in the end, even then, we stumbled over the line. Basically,
Jordan
remember
Moore
coming
Taylor
out.
played in central midfield a couple of games, didn't he, that season, and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff.
Whereas for this season, sorry, just
go
quickly
for it.
finish the point. When you've got a front line of Callum Patterson, Mendes Lang, and then either Russian Hepburn Murphy or Aaron Nemain, he's another player that quite a lot of fans thought would go in the summer because he wasn't favoured. Like he fell out of the team. He wasn't really the sort of player that we would expect to be a Paul Warne player. Maybe thinking of him more as a wing back than a winger. But he's been, I think, the main player that's impressed Paul Warne to the extent that he came immediately off the transfer list and into the first team.
Sorry, is this Nemane or Hepburn Murphy?
Yes. Yeah, no, sorry, Nemain.
Nemain, right, okay, interesting. Yeah, so he's kind of even though he's quote unquote for another, but a bit like Liam Kelly, I suppose you would think he would be for another manager, and yet he's been moulded in.
They were the two that we were thinking, okay, in the summer, if they go, they go. But now they're two of our probably most important players in the squad. I'm not sure Nemain will stay in the team long term when, like I say, like Collins is coming back, Hepburn Murphy's just come back from injury, but he's definitely earned his place if he does stay there.
Absolutely. I'm going to sort of throw something at you, Dan, which is I know you're not much of a data guy, but one thing I did want to kind of ask you about was from a sort of numbers point of view, MK Dons have got the 5th best expected goal, 10th best, only the 10th best expected goals rate in League Two, even though in terms of actual goals, you're third, which I'm sure you'd rather it that way round, right? Does it surprise you that MK Dons don't necessarily do that well on the attacking metrics? And B, I suppose, does it matter that much, or do you think because of the star quality that you've got in this team, you don't necessarily need to create a ton of chances because you've got players who can be productive in the final third?
We've been really clinical, so I think in terms of that, it really doesn't bother me too much that we're low down on XG because I might be wrong here. Again, I wasn't there. Like, I do apologise. I heard a stat or something that against Bristol Rovers, we had 5 shots on target and 4 of them went in. So, yeah. Apologies if I'm wrong. These are the conversations
It'd be something like that.
Saturday before the games or something. But yeah, if that carries on, so long as we remain being clinical, XG really doesn't bother me. The main one I think for me personally in XG is conceding. Are we conceding a lot of chances? And I don't really think we are.
That's true.
We had a spell earlier in the year where I think we were keeping quite a lot of clean sheets and we were really limiting chances. And that's the main thing for me. In terms of attacking, we know we've got a team that arguably shouldn't be in this league. Like we understand why we've got that, but they're here and they're not League Two players. And they're sort of showing that in a way, like Callum Patterson, especially. He's scoring goals. He's sort of like he's leading the line, but then he's also sprinting back to defend a corner. He can be like one of the last men back.
That's him. Yeah,
I'm trying to think of the words to sort of like accurately think of sort of like.
I think you've summarised it quite well. There's a really good team spirit and everyone's buying into the collective cause, which is what Paul Warne's done throughout his career, really.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like I said earlier, like the mentality side of things is important. They're fighting they're really fighting for each other, and that's showing they look like they're enjoying themselves on the pitch. And when they start enjoying themselves, that's when we look really good going forward.
I think that's one thing that Paul Warne's done throughout his career, he gives players a sense of purpose, and he gets players wanting to go above and beyond for one another and get to know each other as human beings rather than just as footballers. And I think that's a really special aspect of Paul Warren's work, and it's clearly bearing fruit at the moment. One more question from me then, Dan. MK Dons, do you think you're going to win the league the 1 year where I've had my doubts? I feel like it was a positive omen, wasn't it?
I kept begging you not to put us top, didn't I? So yeah, I really don't care if we win the league or not, so long as we're in the top 3. That's it. Some people will look at our squad and look at the money that we've got and the money that we've thrown at it and think if you don't finish first, it's been a failure of a season. But honestly, so long as we're in League One next year,
I don't think you've won a league title yet, though, have you? So that'd be a nice.
We have. We're probably one of the best League Two teams in history, which is funny considering how little history we have. But our 2007-2008 team was special.
Oh, I thought the Isle McLeod side finished second or third or something. Was it the title?
No, it was us and Peterborough, and we had a really good sort of like battle over a few years at that point, which is why, maybe less so now, but why at the time they were sort of considered probably our biggest rivals at the time, but because it was such a competitive thing. So yeah, we had that League Two season where we won the league and the Johnson's Paint Trophy. They finished second, and then we both went up to League
Keith Andrews
One.
lifting the cup, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we both went up to League One. They finished second. We finished third, but it was only sort of like 2 or 3 points in it. But yeah, no, that 2007-2008 team, that's been the benchmark for so long as well. So like the teams that sort of like we consider as our greatest, and there's conversations on forums at the moment about club legends, this, that, and the other.
Oh, surely the 14-15 side is the greatest, though, I think.
The 2007-8 team is remembered, I think, a lot more fondly, mainly because it was sort of like our first. It was our first and everything.
Sure.
But yeah, no, winning the league would be nice, but the main thing is promotion, whether that's first, second, third. If it's the playoffs, I'm going to have a lot less hair than I already do now because we never do well in the playoffs. But yeah,
great stuff. Well, I appreciate you joining me to represent the MK Army. Thanks so much for joining us, Dan, and I'm sure I'll speak to you again soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Gab, mate.
Top man, Dan. Delighted to be joined now by Adam Howard from the View from the Findus podcast. Adam, thanks so much for joining me this evening.
Off. Sorry, Gab, it's become such a habit at the moment, mate. It's crept into me real everyday life. Good evening, Gab. Hey, don't do that, mate. I ain't got a clue what I'll talk about to the listeners.
Well, listen, Grimsby are in a great position, Adam, in the top 3 at the moment. Definitely look like you've made progress again this season. You must be excited about the direction things are moving in.
Oh, massively, yeah. I mean, currently sat 4th after the Swindon's point last night dropped us back into 4th. But actually, if you were talking about expected goals there, if you look at the table in terms of expected points, so expected goals for and against, we would actually be sat top of it. Obviously, life isn't fair and it doesn't always work like that, hence why we're sat 4th. I mean, if it did, if life ran fair like that, Gab, you'd be presenting Match of the Day now. You'd have took over from Lineker. And I'd probably be in a dog queue somewhere, wouldn't I? But there you go. Here we are, Gab.
I would always, you know this, Adam, I would always rather be at Blundell Park than the Match of the Day studio.
Exactly. He says, "Watch that nose get long a lot." Even I'm a big Town fan, and even I wouldn't say that, Gab.
Right. So you must feel like that performance against Gillingham, it was only a 1-0 victory. Do you feel like you created the chances to possibly knock 2 or 3 more past them?
Oh, definitely, yeah. I mean, obviously, a quick look at the result, and people are going to see the 2 red cards and go, "Oh, well, there you go," and it was only 1-0.
Sure.
Gillingham have done really well, which they did. However, the narrative of the game was a bit more complex than that, because 11 against 11, we were on top. I mean, the stats show that, and just watching it live, you felt that we were much more likely to get the goal. Fair play to Gillingham. When they went down to 9 men, they gave it everything. There was plenty of effort and clung into the game. Their keeper, who's middle-aged now, Morris, isn't he? Made some brilliant saves. We missed a few chances. It was one of those, and it felt slightly worrying at the end, because they had a couple of free kicks around the halfway line that obviously you're able to launch into the box in injury time, and you just thought, what's happening here. But we hung on against 9 men, and 3 points, stayed in Grimsby.
Absolutely. For me, the big thing there's 2 big things that stand out for me, Adam. First is the extra depth, because you only scored 11 goals last season in the last 15 minutes of matches, whereas this season we're only barely a third of the way through. I don't think we're yet, and you've already scored 6 goals in the last 15 minutes of matches. So that shows there's more depth, because you've been able to recruit for the squad and not just for the 11. And you've got players like Jude Soon-Sop-Bell, who haven't even quite got going yet, and Rose is coming back, and all these lovely options. I think David Artell's got more decisions to make, and the freedom, I suppose, to change games that aren't going Grimsby's way, which I think was a challenge last season.
Yeah, definitely. So at that Gillingham game Saturday, Gab, I was sat there in the main stand, and players warm up in front of, close to where I sit.
Sure.
And I still remember looking across this Saturday and seeing Danny Rose, Svan Thorson and Corey all warming up. And you think, compare that to last season, that would have been Rekiel Pike, it would have been Matty Carson warming up, it'd have been Callum Ainley. So it's just such a shit. Thompson, Curtis, I can go on and on.
Yeah, with respect to those players.
With complete respect to those players, it's just the squad depth and our bench just feels so much stronger each game, and we're reaping the rewards from that. It was actually on our pod after about 8 or 9 games. I actually looked into how many goal contributions substitutes had made for us, and I compared it to the previous 2 seasons. Now, I'm building this up, and I haven't got the stats exactly on me, but it was like 2 years ago, we'd had 1 goal contribution in the first 10 games from subs. Last season, it was like 0. And after about 8 games, we'd had about 5 already. It was just, there was a real stark contrast there.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a really exciting thing. I know internally somebody like Jude Soon-Sop-Bell is rated extremely highly. Have you been able to get a glimpse of what he can do so far?
He's only played bit parts so far, and I've seen him come on a handful of times. I'm going to be really boring with this answer, Gab, and say
I need to get by now, Adam. Don't worry.
Yeah. The jury is still out there. I haven't seen enough minutes to judge. I haven't. Yeah, he needs a proper run like any player. Obviously, he comes with a real pedigree. He's had an interesting career path so far.
Sure.
Has he done anything that's wowed me yet? Not really. But has he had time to do that? Also, not really. So, yeah, ask me that one in a few months.
Sure. Yeah. So I think he's someone who's got, like you mentioned, a really exciting youth background with Tottenham and Chelsea. I'm led to believe that the management staff really do think a lot of him. So that's another reason to be excited. Like, you've got Soon-Sop-Bell, easy for me to say. Who hasn't yet got going. You've got Danny Rose, who's still coming to fitness. I don't know what the state of play with Zach Gilson is, whether he can come into it in the second half of the season.
Well, with Danny Rose, you're starting to get one or two people saying the old classic when a player's over 30 and they're suddenly not starting a bit. And I know it's been injuries, but you always get the classic, his legs have gone. You start reading that from the odd town fan.
When you're
Always
31,
the legs as well. I mean, I'm the other side of 30 and I can tell you other body parts go as well, but we'll park that there, Gab. We'll move on rather quickly from that.
Yeah, good move.
But I still think Danny Rose has got a big part to play this season. He's clever enough. He's still going to be a big player this season for us. Again, Gilson's another one similar to Soon-Suk Bell due to injuries, due to a lack of fitness. We haven't seen loads from yet. An exciting prospect. He's somebody that I'm looking forward to seeing more minutes from. He's come on in the odd time and one or two touches and you think, oh yeah, looks good, and then misplaced passes. But again, it's just too early to give a real assessment on him. Other than these are exciting players to the young lads. They've got interesting pedigrees. You're not talking about somebody who you're thinking, well, yeah, there's him as well, but I think he's just sort of back up and
sure.
Yeah, so interesting.
We've spoken about the players who are still to fully come into the equation. What about the players that are really impressing now, Adam? Because I wanted to talk to you about the wide men in particular, Charles Vernon and Dara Burns, who are kind of two, I wouldn't say new names because Furnham's got some history with Grimsby Town and played previously as well. But I would say that, maybe last season, injury, productivity, question marks, maybe wasn't quite at the optimum level. This year, he seems to have gone up an extra gear. And same with Dara Burns, who signed in January and took a bit of time to get going. And both of them at the moment have had a wonderful first quarter of the campaign.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk Vernon first because that's... at the moment, enjoyable. He's in the league already this season, scored 5 and assisted 5, but he's also scored and assisted within the cup as well. Obviously, the goal being against Manchester United. It's always nice to throw that one in. Yeah, I've got a sneak. It's a bit like the FA Cup quarter-final run, Gab. I'll be doing this for years, mate. If we're sat here in 30 years, there's certain stuff I'll keep bringing up because, I just enjoy it. But, yeah, Charles Vernon, he's just having a fabulous season at the moment. He's, first of all, managing to stay fit, which for him is wonderful to see. But he's just so direct and aggressive when he gets the ball. He's the sort of wide player that as a defender you would hate playing against. Yeah. Because he can go either way. And even he's one of those players that he's so quick at times. The defender knows he's probably going to cut inside and try and hit one into the far corner. But you know yourself at times when you've played, sometimes people, what's about to happen. You think, I can stop this. And they still manage to find that half a yard to hit the shot. And he's just managing to do that so frequently. But let's not forget, this is the same Charles Vernon who very nearly signed for Swindon this summer. He certainly spoke to them. The club's gone on record as saying that. And the official story is he decided to stay with Grimsby for family reasons. So we may now well need to be buying a lovely Christmas gift for Mrs. Vernon. Because, if she's convinced him to stay here instead of going for Swindon, that's a massive win for us. And, Dara Burns is looking better than he did last season. I still think that attacking right position is up for grabs. I think when Svan Thorsen comes back and regains full fitness, he may well push him for that position. But again, and we've seen Amalozo played it in that position as well. So there has been a little bit of a rotation there. But again, it goes back to that squad depth. I mean, I've just mentioned 3 players there. And although especially on the back of the end of last season's Van Thorson would probably be my preference. We're talking about Dara Burns, who played really well against Manchester United and has had some great moments. Amal Azur, who's got some real raw pace. He's still, he's still got a, which seems ridiculous at 29, but he's new to this league. He's still got a rawness to his game. But again, I still wouldn't fancy defending against him. So that squad depth is wonderful, Gab.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing, I suppose, you know, there's depth in the wide areas, and there's also depth in central midfield where you can decide between Evan Curry or Jamie Walker, for instance, or Kieran Green or Jamie Walker, because it's you've obviously got George McEachran at the base of midfield, your playmaker, which is pretty much a non-negotiable, I think. But for some games where you need that destructive influence, you might go for Curry and Green. But then for games maybe at home, like, you know, against Cheltenham, for instance, you can bring in Jamie Walker and he can bring in that bit of individual magic in those central areas. So that's nice to have those options.
Exactly. I mean, I felt at the start of the season, Kieran Green and Jamie Walker were almost battling for that same position. However, like you say, he seems to, at home, be quite happy to play the pair of them and have McEachran sitting in, whereas away from home, again, he seems to switch it and put Corey in, which, again, squad depth works wonderfully. And on some of those players, I mean, Corey, my biggest criticism of him previously has been his finishing, his goal return. He scored 3 goals in 51 games last season. He scored 4 goals already this season. He's finding the back of the net.
Maybe he was watching the podcast, Adam.
Exactly. Yeah. He's obviously heard. I mean, I hope himself, the coaching team, and Artel had spotted that before listening to the podcast. I hope. Christ, if you could get Corey scoring, if only it was as simple as that, eh, Gab?
Yeah, Artel wasn't aware of what Evan Corey's goal scoring record was.
Exactly. And McEachran's just fabulous at this level. I mean, Andre Pirlo, there's a lovely quote from him where he says that football is played with your head, your feet are just your tools. And I just feel that sums up McEachran. He's just, he just reads the game so beautifully well. The amount of loose balls he picks up and just strokes it off to somebody. And he's just absolutely wonderful. I can't praise McEachran enough.
I just hope that because I bet there's going to be interest in McEachran in January, and the club are going to have I mean, hopefully there's not a release clause that's low or anything like that, because I think that would be really important to keep him for the second. I think that could be the difference, retaining George McEachran.
I think you're certainly right. I think he had so much quality, so much calmness. Just ability, just looks better than this level. Every so often there's a player that you just feel is better than the level they're playing at. And I feel that with McEachran. It was like McAtee when we had him in the conference. You was just looking and going, he's at the wrong level here. He should be at least a league higher up. Don't forget, though, obviously we've got Geza David Touré, the Faroese midfielder as well, who I don't think he's at McEachran level yet, but he's just been away on international duty, played in 2 games with the Faroe Islands, which are arguably the 2 most impressive results that they've ever had in the history of a nation. I mean, they beat Montenegro 4-0. Touré came on off the bench.
Montenegro aren't a bad side. They would be, I imagine, a sort of, I'm guessing here, like a low-end championship or upper-end League One side, I would have thought Montenegro.
Yeah, I would have thought so. And then they also, with Touré playing the vast majority of the game, beat Czech Republic 2-1.
Wow.
So yeah, so we were almost ahead of the curve scouting the Faroe Islands. It feels.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully you've replied. I don't know, actually, did you manage to replace Joe Hutchinson? Have they appointed a head of recruitment yet? Or
yes, we did.
So
And get back to me on the name. Hey, there's certain research I've done, but
okay, well that's good. As long as
that's a gap. That's a chat for next time. I'm sure
you'd only give me a name that I hadn't heard of, so the name doesn't make a huge amount of difference. But that's good that you've got someone in motion, so that the wheels are in place for January and everything. Because obviously in the summer it's one thing. David being the one who makes all phone calls and that kind of thing, but in January he's obviously managing the team, so you need people in place for that. So so that's pretty good. Feeling got Christy Pym as well, worth mentioning. I think he saved you a few points this season too. Are you, with all that in mind, Adam, are you pretty confident, and is there anything that makes you doubt Grimsby's promotion credentials this season?
Well, I'm going to do the classic Grimsby thing of being a little bit pessimistic to start off with, and say that I guess what would make me doubt it. Well, a couple of things that would make me doubt it more than anything. Number one, one or two of those other sides in the division. You've just had the Milton Keynes fan on, the MK Dons fan.
Sure.
The money they've spent, the money they've got available in January, the squad they've got.
Yeah.
But then you're also seeing like Salford signing Barini, and you think, right, this is what we're competing against. We haven't got. Obviously, we're doing it through the data links, the analytics. We're trying to do it in a different way, a clever way, but we haven't got that sort of budget to compete at that sort of level. So, one thing that might prevent us getting one of those top three spots is a couple of teams that throw money at it big time. That prevents us. However, I am. Oh, and the other thing, is like you say, January. At this moment, I'm very happy with this squad, but I'm also aware that we're at the top end of the league. We're not a side that's like Milton Keynes that can just turn down huge offers. If money gets put on the table for certain players, we may well have to sell. Having said that,
if you get 2 million and a good add-on offer for McEachran, you might have to say, okay, we'll sell him and we'll back Geza Turley to sort of make that step up. Because you might have to sort of take that offer.
Yeah, I mean, you're taking that sort of money, Gab. That's of course you are. Yeah, of course you are. So yeah, although I am. In some ways, fairly optimistic. I mean, just more than anything, Gab, hopeful. I'd just love to see us get promoted automatically.
When was the last time you won a Football League promotion, Adam?
So the Football League promotion would have been would have been 1998.
That is crazy for a club of your size and your fan base to have not won a Football League promotion since '98. I mean, some of that you're in the Championship, weren't you? So
a lot of it we were, the old Division 1 Championship. However, 1998, and the last time we went up automatically, the back pass rule still wasn't a thing. You could tackle people from behind still. And the Soviet Union was still a state, because the last time we got promoted automatically in the football
was the Berlin
league,
Wall up or down?
Well, it would have just been down because it was 1991. So it was the last time automatically. So we're talking a long time ago, Gab. So just the thought of finishing in the top three. If it happens, you need to make sure you're in Cleethorpes, and we're taking you on a night out, Gab.
Absolutely.
We're
look forward
celebrating.
To hanging out with the view from the Finders. Well, do you know what? I actually have had I was when Stevenage won promotion in 2023. I was on the pitch chatting to Danny Rose, so I'm hoping in 2026 there's a poetic symmetry there, because that'd be nice.
Yeah. I could just imagine Rose. It'd be a bit surreal for him, wouldn't it? He's here again.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that time I was playing with the community staff at Stevenage, and I went in goal for some penalties on the pitch.
Really?
So, yeah, I didn't manage to save a single one. So I don't think I'm going to get my career going as a goalkeeper, but stick to EFL punditry. Adam, thanks so much for talking to us. It's been a pleasure to chat about the Mariners this evening. Thanks for getting the little uns to clear up to create some space. And I'm sure I'll speak to you on the podcast soon.
Yeah, thank you very much, Gab. Wonderful to speak to you as always. Take care.
Cheers, Adam. Thanks everyone for watching. This has been the EFL Debate League 2 podcast, and we'll see you again next week. And in the meantime, get subscribed to us on YouTube and Spotify.